Parcepses higritus. Nas hocer tu Lucifer. Parcepses higritus. Nas hocer tu Lucifer. Parcepses higritus.
Guys, I'm seriously fucked. I asked you all for information on schizophrenia. Instead, you told me to leave. All that did was make me want to finish this all the more. I should have listened. After I posted what was happening, things got worse. I watched the house for a little longer that night. I crept closer and raised the window just like in my nightmare. And just like that awful dream, the cherub was waiting for me, standing there bouncing, watching from his crib. Goose flesh rippled over my skin like a tidal wave of fear. The moon cast strange shadows through his room. They played and danced on the walls, beckoning me to come closer. I left. I was just hearing things. Now I was hallucinating as well. Something was horribly wrong with me. The heat I normally felt during the hunt had settled in my belly like shards of glass. I did the only feasible thing. I went to a bar to get trashed. The bar I found was far enough from the town that I wouldn't be associated with it later. Just another person passing through. It was loud and rowdy, smelling of stale beer, cheap tobacco, and at least a gallon of male musk. Just my kind of place to get lost in. And if someone decided to get lost with me, well, they'd never be found, and maybe my mind would settle. At least, that was my plan. I was halfway through my third rye when the most jaw-droppingly gorgeous man plopped down across the booth from me. The liquid in his tumbler grasped between his elegant fingers was a beautiful deep amber. It gripped the walls of the cup in a silky coating after being gently swirled around its glass prison. "I don't believe we've met." His voice matched the elixir he drank, deep and honeyed, with a hint of lost tomorrows. I snorted in response, feeling my eyebrow raise involuntarily. I'm not sure when his friend sat beside me, but I suddenly noticed the peculiar lack of presence of the man next to me, trapping me in my seat. His silver hair pulled back immaculately into a tight ponytail. This one's features were sharp and cut, like one of those museum statues brought to life. He eyed me lazily. "Can I buy you another?" the golden man with the honeyed voice asked, gesturing to my mysteriously emptied pint. He snapped his fingers and the bartender magically appeared to refill my cup. I must be drunker than I thought. The ambrosia he poured me was black and viscous. "It's a house special. We call it Lost Souls." He flashed a predatory smirk at me. I chuckled. I was among kindred spirits. They just didn't know it yet. The treasured feeling of my teeth growing into long, sharp points returned to me at long last. Tonight will be a good night. Before I could bring the drink to my lips, the silver man slapped his hand over the mouth of the cup, staring down Honey. Honey's green eyes glittered, and the faintest trace of a smile twitched in his lips. Silver shrugged and relinquished his grip. "Try it, then." Silver's voice was like the great void of space, cold and curious. I'd like to tell you what that fragrant liquid tasted like. All I remember is my throat burning, like Satan himself had tried to strangle me. Every face in the suddenly silent bar turned to stare. Eyes. So many eyes on me. My skin began to crawl. Leave, 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 leave. It was screamed at me in deafening whispers, yet no one's mouth was moving. My flesh began to burn from invisible tongues of hellfire. I found myself abruptly standing. The cup tipped and spilled the black fluid everywhere. I watched in awe as it receded, returning to the cup as Silver righted it. "Ah, but it was only a taste," Honey sneered, "of what's to come." The voices were back. Silver stood and stepped aside, flourishing a gesture towards the door. The cacophony of the bar returned as I staggered to the door. Feeling the glaring stares of both Honey and Silver on my back, I winced as Honey's melodious laughter turned to ugly chortles. "Thanks for visiting." His bellow followed me out into the night. If you happen to come across a strangely named bar on a lonely stretch of road, don't try the house special. Hellenbach's Lost Souls brings out your inner demons. I returned to the thicket, determined to end it. I was done with the bullshit. My trip to the bar only proved that something was wrong with this podunk hellhole. I would feel better if I left, but I'd never left such easy prey, and I'd never forgive myself if I didn't end the little shit. Since my hallucinations and self-doubt only seemed to get worse the closer I got to the house, I'd have to commit my least favorite form of murder. I couldn't have anyone ever saying that I, the great hunter, didn't have the balls to end a piddly, insignificant child. I must have killed the cherub at least a dozen times in my head already. It seemed so real each time, and each time I imagined it, it ended badly. It was time to do it proper. I took my stance in the snow that frigid night. My body screamed at me to run, like you all did. By the way, thanks for that, guys. I really appreciate you helping to feed my insecurities. I looked down the scope. There he was, watching me. Always watching me. Like he knows what sin I'm about to commit. The moon was bright that night, guiding my shot, as if the heavens themselves wanted me to do this. I watched as the glass window pane shattered. His blood and brains sprayed out like a halo before splattering the wall behind his crib. I watched as lights came on in the house, as his bedroom door was flung open. I listened to Mother's wail pierce the night like a banshee cry. I listened as the forest around me woke in a chorus of animalistic howls, like the very floodgates of hell itself had opened. The trees themselves began to shake and crack angrily. I thought it was just my schizophrenia acting up until I saw, well, I can only describe it as a massive, giant wild boar running at me. The winter night cast a blue glow to its skin. Branches broke off and snagged in its long black hair as it charged me, giant tusks gleaming in the moonlight. I ran with everything I had. I ran until the black of the lost souls erupted out of my mouth and nose, spilling down my front and burning my throat once more. Still I ran, that demon close on my heels. Obviously, I escaped, but only because I got lucky. I fired blindly behind me and hit the beast in the shoulder. At such a close range, it tore through its body like butter. The damn thing picked itself up and came at me again, but by then I was already to my car. I peeled out like a bat out of hell. I don't know how I stayed on the road at that speed in the snow. The first thing I did when I got home was take a nice, long, hot shower. My body burned under the water's caress. I either had the first stages of frostbite and hypothermia, or I had a reaction to that damn shit Honey made me drink. My skin was red, tender to the touch, and I still had a strange mark over my breast. I also had a larger one on my neck. Both resembled handprints. Damn weird bugs. The robed man didn't answer when I called. The number didn't even work. Fucker. I was toweling my hair when there was a knock on the door. I don't have friends. Acquaintances wouldn't dare come to my home, even if they knew where it was. Armed with my favorite knife, I threw open the door, expecting anything except for what awaited me on the other side. Honey casually leaned on my doorframe. His sun-kissed tresses hung in his face, hiding his eyes. His lips trembled before pulling into a forced smile. His tongue flicked out, and he sucked a tooth before sliding it across his lower lip. It was forked. He leaned down. His once brilliant green eyes were now visible and molten. He opened his mouth to speak, but quickly slammed it shut, the muscles grinding in his jaw. Anger radiated off of him, perverting his beautiful face, twisting it into a ferocious snarl. His hand whipped out, fingers wrapping around my neck like a snake. He lifted me off my feet and slammed me into the wall. I struck out at him with my blade, slicing his face cheek to chin. He fucking hissed at me. Hissed! Before simply slapping the knife from my hand and slamming me into the wall once more. I used to think I didn't have a soul. I now know I did. I felt every little bit of it burn to nothingness as he ripped it out. "You will pay," he seethed as his face shifted through the shapes of those that used to scare me. The people that helped make me blossom into what I am, what I was. He burnt my flesh, the stench of burning hair mingling with the acrid scent of brimstone filled the hole in my face that was once my nose. He tore off my charred outer layer, piece by excruciating piece. He pulled out my left eye and made me watch with my right as he popped it in his mouth and bit down, the ocular fluids gushing out and running down his chin. He broke my bones one by one, stopping only to suck the marrow and moan in delight. His clawed fingers dug into my breast, ripping at the muscle until the white of my ribs peeked out. He pushed his hand deeper and deeper into me, the bones cracking out of his way to accommodate him, until those long, wicked digits wrapped around my black heart. He smiled now, lips pulling taut over two sharp teeth. Leaning close, his blood-stained mouth brushed my naked mandible. "He lives, you know." I could only gasp and shudder in response. "Stupid human. Did you think a simple bullet would kill my son?" As he began to squeeze my heart, the place that the hand-shaped bug bite was began to burn. I no longer had vocal cords to play, but still I screamed with all my might. Guys, I don't know how, but I think I just escaped hell and Lucifer himself. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I am. But there's a lightness in my chest that wasn't there before. I don't know a lot of things, but I do know one thing with certainty. He is not done with me, and the voices in the dark say he's coming.